Very, very interesting news on both fronts with Fincher and Almodovar. So let's begin with Fincher. Essentially, he's apparently doing a graphic novel slash comic. I think this is the first time he's ever done an actual comic book adaptation. He had a few planned, and in fact, he almost did Spider-Man, if you can believe it, but that never really happened. But with this one, he's doing this in Paris and in France, so the Netflix budget is really going to help him out. And we do have a few photos. So Fassbender is going to be the main protagonist and the lead actor. But I have to be honest, I've always been a little bit of a Fassbender skeptic, but beyond him, this does have some special properties. It is also being done with the Seven screenwriter. And again, unlike most people, I don't think Seven is the most greatest beautiful thing in the world, but there are, of course, many great things about it that I would never deny, especially the cinematography. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. But in terms of the story and plot, and as well as certain things, great performances, standout moments, but a little mixed. Still, this is really interesting that the Seven screenwriter and him are finally teaming up after all this time. I was also disappointed with Zodiac, but this is a little bit different. This is a look at an assassin, not technically a serial killer, and looking at his thoughts and processes. So it's a lot of meaty material for somebody like Fincher to work through. And I haven't been able to catch up with Mindhunter until lately, so sort of going to track the movements of this new production with Mindhunter. So hopefully it'll be some interesting ways his television and film work intersect. But here he's finally going to do an English film. He actually was almost going to do this with Meryl Streep. He was going to do Julieta with Meryl Streep, but ultimately he decided to do it with a Spanish cast. All his films have been in Spanish, and although now he's world famous, he has a well-deserved reputation as a kind of woman's director. I don't think you want to call him feminist, but he probably comes closest to being quite literally a female director, because almost every film is so focused on female identity, female protagonists, female concerns, the feminine and the masculine, and often from a female point of view. So he's a pretty extraordinary standout. And he's got Cate Blanchett, who I think by wide consensus is probably one of the best, if not the best actress. Certainly I would put her top 5, no doubt about that. She is one of the greatest actresses in the world, and her record is insane. It's just an incredible, remarkable CV. I can't even list a single bad film I think she's ever done. Some of the films have worked better or worse, but her performances are always stellar and excellent and quite intriguing and well worth seeing. Even if overall the film was okay, her performances are always quite interesting and stand out. Feels like it's going to be a winner for sure, and she's also going to help produce this. And looks really, really good on paper. And again, the reason he didn't do it with Julieta, he was still nervous about trying to do the script in English and direction in English. But presumably, those phobias are gone. This will be an extremely interesting project from many levels. His current film, Parallel Mothers, is receiving a lot of praise with Penelope Cruz by the top critics as either the best film of the year or near the top. So that's good news all around. Then we have the sad news of saying goodbye to many legends. Betty White, of course, Sidney Poitier, and their very long work. But I want to take a few seconds on Peter because he sort of got lost in the mix. He's a very great director and has done many iconic films, but he probably doesn't have the name recognition he deserves. And he's a very curious person because he did have a very long stint in Hollywood, but alienated a lot of people. And he admits that, but it's really worth looking back on his work as well, which is pretty insane. But does it have the same cultural iconic status as either Betty White or Sidney Poitier? No, I can't say that. I do have one personal thing that connects me to Sidney Poitier. I literally believe Sneakers is the first film I ever saw by myself as a kid. Technically, I paid for it, but obviously you have an allowance. I didn't have a job. First film I actually saw by myself in theaters. It made sense. It was PG-13. It's nothing too graphic or racy, so it was age appropriate. And it was a really good film. It was really fun. So I do have sort of personal connection with him. I'd always hoped to meet him and work with him, but unfortunately that's gone. But he has left us an age over 100, so he definitely lived a full life at least. Betty's a little bit more tragic because even though she steadily worked for every decade and actually had a renaissance near the end of her life, right? She started appearing in so many things, even at her very old age. She died tragically just before she turned 100. It's really remarkable. She was just so close. But again, overall, a very great career. Very eclectic. and all over the place. I really liked her in Placid Lake, a terrible horror movie, but she was really fun in it. There's just way too many good moments and too many highlights beyond the Golden Girls. And of course, Sydney has so many iconic performances. Really interesting how many iconic figures have recently passed away. So overall, you're usually twisted because it's Hollywood, but overall, these are fairly decent people. So very tragic passing of these legends. Some good news on the auteur front, but sad news and saying goodbye to some icons.